Hello and welcome in, everybody. SNS Bills Talk, episode 3. You're with us on the trifecta. Odds are once you've done 3, you're going to stick. So we're here to stay, ladies and gentlemen. I am Lawrence Foster alongside Dr. Dungan. Welcome in and happy almost April.
Almost April.
Tomorrow
I'm
is one
actually
of my
looking
least
forward to
favorite days of the year.
what, tomorrow?
I hate April Fool's Day.
So tomorrow's going to be awesome because I have a lecture tomorrow and my students have an exam coming up soon. So I'm going to screw with them something. Yeah. I don't know. It'll be awesome.
Most people end up doing too much. Like people don't know, like little jokes are fine, but some people take it to extremes. That's what I can. And then I don't go on social media anymore because I'm not going to believe anything that happens.
Yeah.
I still remember like the Zelda live action thing that someone made a film. Like, oh my God, they're making a Zelda movie. And I found out it was fake. Like, ugh.
So the stupidest one I ever fell for was when I worked at Petco, and the company put like an something on the official like employee company webpage, which was talking about like little hoodies for like fish when it got too cold. I was like, what? I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, how are we going to put him on the fish? It's going to kill him. And I was so convinced. I was like, Corey, you're an idiot. And I was like, you know what? You're right. I am. I didn't realize what today was.
So yeah,
Fish
everyone.
hoodies.
I mean, they need something in the Arctic to help them, right? So there
Yeah,
you
that's
go.
embarrassing to even say out loud.
All right, so we are SNS Cards, as we said. Oh, SNS Bills Talk here, SNS Cards, Sticks and Skins on TikTok. We are on YouTube. We are on TikTok. We are everywhere. So welcome in. We're going to kick things off today, talking about it. Yet another extension in Bills land, one that everyone was hoping would get done. Everyone called this like the biggest domino of the offseason. So Christian Benford agreed to a 4-year extension with the Bills, $76 million. So your overall initial thoughts on this deal for the Bills top corner?
I think Benford goes along with every other signing that we've had so far, where we just say like my first reaction, I think yours was too, was, oh, is that all? Um, because I thought for sure we weren't going to get away without paying him like 22, 25 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
He was arguably a top 5 corner last year. So I'm really happy with it. For the number of misses that Bean has had in the first couple of rounds, he's really hit in the later round with Benford being a 6th-round pick. So I was really glad that we were able to get him for a modest value.
And you talk about the value of, we see on the screen here, some other cornerback deals that were done this year, people that are like Stingley and Horn kind of in his bracket of level of player. 30 million an average annual value with Derek Stingley, JC Horn with a 25 million, and you have Ward, Murphy, Davis, and Adebo with 18 million each.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, Benford at 19 million. I think you and I both thought once Stingley and Horn's deals were done, we're like, oh crap, you
That's
know, we just we just got priced out of extending him.
Yep. But
So value wise, where do you said top 5? So where do you see him, like in your mind, as a corner stacked up against his peers in the NFL?
again, I think he's better than any corner in our division. I think Sauce is highly overrated, and Jalen Ramsey's on the back end of his career. So I would dare say he's arguably one of the best ones in the AFC, top 3. So again, I couldn't be happier with this. And I know we said it last time, but I'll say it again. I think all of this stems from, even though Josh wasn't the first one to sign, it's just that team first mentality of, you know what, the team is taking care of me. I'm still making a lot of money, but I want to win. And so I'm willing to take a little bit less so somebody else can get paid so we can keep our team together and have the best possible chance for success. So I think this is a heck of a value, especially because, I mean, in all reality, right, like you look at J.C. Horn. I think he got those flipped in terms of just Horn plays for Carolina. But I I think he only made that much because Carolina has nobody else, right? And
Mhm.
I don't think there's any question of Benford being better than J.C. Horn. Stingley's really good. Charvarius Ward is good. I don't know. So I'll stop rambling. I think this is a good value.
I think of it kind of like this. I think of when the Niners, everything they gave up for Trey Lance, and they fell into Brock Purdy. Imagine how the Bills look if Benford played like a traditional 6 rounder, and then Elam was obviously a whiff. So
Yes.
how much Benford means for the Bills in terms of just like when you look at that draft as a whole of like, man, Bean isn't really given as much criticism because I think of the success of Benford. Kind of
Mm-hmm.
like the Niners weren't given as much slack because ended up working out with our quarterback, even though we gave up as much as we did to get Trey
Right.
Lance. So, and something that Bean talked about yesterday because the owners' meetings are happening, he said that like they were talking with Cook's agents, James Cook, and they were working on something, but that they couldn't agree on something, so they moved on, and then Benford happened. So the Bills are working through their players, and Benford and the other guys we've extended seem to, like you said, I think realize it's a fair contract. I'm getting paid more than the average player at my position with a similar, career structure.
Mm-hmm.
And there's, like I said, I think, like you said, kind of fall in line behind Josh of I could have got more, but sometimes your fit is more important than what you're getting paid.
Yeah. No, I mean, and it's of note. Well, I guess also there's this and the fact that Benford's 24 years old. So by the time
Mm.
he's up for another extension, he'll be 27, 28 years old. And if he really wants to get paid, I mean, if he continues his play and he really wants to get paid even more, well, then he's going to be eligible for a modest second contract. So I'm sure that has to play
Yeah.
some part in it too. On whether or not this is going to be their only contract versus this could be the first of the second. And I think that's ultimately where Cook's at, where he knows what it is, right? This is his only time he's going to get paid, right? Running backs do not get a second extension. They only get
Yeah.
one if they're good. But also it's the fact that he's the only one to go public, and Bean even sort of said, I wish he would have kept it in house. And I think that we're
Mm.
seeing that. We're seeing somebody who knows they only get one extension and someone who decided to open his mouth. So I frankly don't think Cook is ever going to get done. And I would, as much as I think he's a good player and I like him and I hope that we can keep him, I'd be okay trading him to say Oakland for a second round pick than I would extending him at this point.
Yeah, like you said, Bean yesterday talked about the only reason he was talking about Cook is because Cook's representation put out, hey, we talked with so he was kind of, and the Bills have always been like that, right? Under Bean at least, and McDermott I read a story like a couple of years ago how they told some player if something leaks out, we are pulling the offer.
Mm-hmm.
So that like they tell the agents, they tell the players, this is us, this is between us, so nothing goes out. So the Bills kind of have that reputation of if you go out in public, you're not getting what you want.
Yep.
And I think that's for the betterment, so you don't end up like other teams with situations like what Higgins was going through and the pressure under that. Parsons, what he's doing with all his, talk in the media and on his and his social platforms. And to me, that's a sign of like a strong foundation of an organization that they have that, and players essentially adhere to it because they know they mean what they say. Cook
Mm-hmm.
is one of the top 5 players on the Bills roster easily, and they've drawn a hard line with him and been like, and like you said, he put it out in public, and it's not an accident. He's the only one of the big guys from next year not extended.
Yeah. Because ultimately, right, what's he going to do? Is he going to sit out and not play or be hurt the whole year? Right?
Yeah. And I think he can look at what Le'Veon Bell did, taking a year off, and he never recovered from that.
Nope.
He never made his money back. He never got the contract he wanted. So taking a year off for running backs has shown because Le'Veon Bell was at the top of his game at that point.
Sure was.
And then he just fell off a cliff afterward. Football is a sport where if you're not having an injury and you just take a year off, it does damage to you. But we look at his stats and we mentioned I think the reason Benford's underrated is because he doesn't have the accolades and he doesn't have the stats, and he's not out there promoting himself. But like we saw, like back in like with Namdi Asamoah, right? Like nobody threw at him, so how are you going to get stats if nobody throws towards you?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why websites like Pro Football Focus, I think, really help put these things in perspective, because they look at what's he supposed to do within the system within a play as best as they can do. Like they don't know exactly, but they have a pretty good idea of, all right, this is what's supposed to happen on this play. And
Mm-hmm.
he's one of the top 5 rated players every year he's played. So the value comes there, and I think Brandon Beane and McDermott realize that. And the next thing I want to take this to is like, does this, you think, make cornerback more of a possibility in the first round because you want to have a cheap contract that kind of matches the length of Benford to pair up the huge contract and the rookie one? Or do you think it's still open?
I think it all depends on what we do before the draft, right? If we re-sign Rasul for a couple of years, then maybe we wait until the second round. But yeah, it's so hard, right? Because if I knew that our defensive linemen weren't going to be suspended for the first 6 games, I would say corner was a top need.
Yeah.
But the fact that they are is I still want to lean towards corner being a top need, but it just makes it so like I could see it going either way. But yeah, no, I mean, I like that idea. I just because of Elam, right? Like I'm a little gun shy now but prior to Elam was Trey, and Trey was runner up for defensive player or defensive rookie of the year. And so, what are you going to get in the later round? Are you going to get a Tre'Davious White? Or are you going to get a Kyrie Elam?
Yep. And also, like you said, second round possibly. The Bills need depth. We saw what happened last year when Benford went down.
Mm-hmm.
Like right now would be Ingram stepping in. Ingram and Dane Jackson. So
Well,
regardless, I think within one of our first 3 picks minimum has to be a cornerback.
and I think, and that's frankly part of the reason why I'm ready to move on from Cook. If we can, because the Raiders, everyone has them, or many people have them mocked as taking that running back out of Boise State.
Genty, yeah.
Yep. And so if instead you said, hey, instead of spending your high, or your low, high, however you want to word it, first round pick, have here's James Cook for a second, and now you can use your first for something else. And I would love, if we had a first in 3 seconds. I mean, defensive line, 2 defensive backs, and a receiver.
Yep. And Bean yesterday also talked about like having as much ammo as he has draft pick wise, like being able to move up and down the board.
Mm-hmm.
I think this will be a pretty exciting draft for the Bills, but the longer it goes, I'm a big James Cook fan. I think he is important to the team, but I think, like you said, if we're going to lose him next year regardless, might as well get something out of it. And you can always get a second and third round running back that you can have a 4-year contract, or even a later round one and just run with Ray Davis and Ty Johnson, and then a 4th or 5th rounder. So we got 3 5th round picks too. So the longer it goes, the more I'm falling in line of your line of thinking of trading him might be the best option all around.
And I guess the last thing I'll say about that is, like, on our team with Josh, do we really need to pay a running back? I mean, again, I'm with you. I love Cook. I mean, I'm not trying to diminish anything he's done, but he played 56% of the snaps, right? So that means he's only getting half of the workload. And when you have a guy like Josh, I don't know.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
So our next topic of conversation, Matt Milano, a different type of deal worked out here. The Bills and Milano reworked his contract. He took a pay cut, which he can earn back through incentives. It opened up about $6 million in cap space for the Bills. But the key thing here is it removed the year from his contract, and it makes him a free agent next year.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, people don't really know football saying, oh, Milano's such a team player. He didn't do this being a team player. He did it as like you said, he knows he's going to get one more contract, probably maximum. And this is his year. If he can ball out,
Yep.
he's going to hit it. Otherwise, I think you'll see him bouncing around. But your thoughts on Milano reworking his deal?
I mean, this is something that you and I had talked about even or well before this had even happened, where it just feels like this is his last year in a Bills uniform. And most Bills fans love Milano. He, talk about another high round pick, fifth round pick, who's turned into an All Pro, right? And but he's been bit by the injury bug quite a few times the last handful of seasons, and just being available is really important. And so I think this is great for the Bills. It's great for Milano, and as much as it sucks to know that Milano's time as a Bill is coming to a close, it feels like I do think it is time to move on and get maybe a little bit younger, right? Like, is this something for which are we going to roll with Dorian Williams? Do we potentially draft a linebacker somewhere in the second round, right?
Yep.
To prepare for him being gone. But I think this is again good for both parties because he's been a really good player for us, but he's just been hurt a lot, and that hurts us.
Yeah, and it's gonna be a kind of a bad way. Kind of like Trey, I feel like it's gonna be like when you see him go, it's one of those that, like, you really don't want him to go, and he's a player that I'll root for
Same.
wherever he ends up. I mean, unless it's like Kansas City, then I won't. But aside from like two teams, wherever he goes, I hope he's successful because he's been one of those blocks that has turned this franchise into one of the top three in the league right now.
Mm-hmm.
So we already lost Edmonds a few years ago to free agency. Now Milano's probably gone. To me, linebacker is a sneaky need that the Bills might address early.
Yep.
Like you mentioned, like we have 2 second-round picks, and given the history, can we even count on Milano to be healthy this year? So Bills fans may get mad if they draft a linebacker, but I could see why they would. But I also like Dorian. He played a lot better last year when he stepped in for Milano.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully they roll with that. But it's tough to see these guys go out the way they are. So I hope he has like an all-pro type year. And even if he does, I still would be okay with them letting him walk.
Same.
But like going out on the high note would be awesome for him with Buffalo.
Yep. And also, I mean, I always think of like people say about Bill Belichick, it's better a year early than a year late. And that's just what it feels like. You have I think he's either 30 or turning 30. So a 30-year-old linebacker who's been injured a lot. Maybe he has another year or two, a good year or two left in him. But, we saw 2 years ago with Jordan Poyer, that was a year late and he hurt us. So as unfortunate as it is, again, it just nature of the beast, and hopefully Dorian Williams can step up. But I mean, regardless of how they feel about Dorian, I would still draft a linebacker in the top 3. And I know we don't have a third-round pick, so want to take one in a second because depth was the killer for us. So just like taking a corner, taking a linebacker, taking a defensive lineman, depth is going to be really important on defense.
Yeah, I know we're a strong, like a heavy nickel team, but you still need off like 20% of the players. You're gonna have 3 linebackers out there, so that drafting somebody with value, like get his ears wet, right? So next year he's ready to step up. He's not going in completely raw. That's why I'm kind of glad like Bishop at least got the playing time he did at the end of the year.
Yep.
So now the Bills actually have tape to work on. He has things he knows. Otherwise, then you're just looking at practice tape and like, all right, I think you can do this. But so I think, yeah. And we'll talk about the draft later on, but linebacker should be one of our first 3.
Yep.
So next, where the Bills play, a big thing. And stadium thoughts, I think we're both like, why did we build an open-air stadium? Especially a few weeks ago when Cleveland had their proposed stadium, which you see on the left here. A beautiful-looking indoor stadium that can host events year-round. Cleveland gets just as much lake effect snow as Buffalo does. and they're right on the lake, so they probably get more. The Bills Stadium, just to go over a few things for those of you who are just going to be listening, not seeing anything on the screen. The Bills Stadium will have a canopy that covers 60% of the seats. It'll have the world's largest snow melt system, so that canopy is going to have technology in it that melts the snow on it. And then the Bills are $800 million over their estimates
How is that possible?
without a dome, mind you. Pagulas are responsible for that, and the Bills are seeking leniency on the NFL's debt rule, which says you can't have borrow $650 million. They kind of have to ask for permission of, we need more. So, what are your thoughts on what Cleveland's doing? What you've seen like Tennessee doing, building the dome stadium in Buffalo, choosing an open air stadium?
I think it's something that we all complained about when it first happened. I am not a purist, a traditionalist. I couldn't care less about, football. Man, it's cold, it's gridiron, it's Buffalo weather. I don't care. Okay, because even though we have a quarterback who can play in that weather, we won't always have a quarterback who can play in that weather. Okay, and it's just from the fan experience. You and I have sat through so many frigid Bills games, and it's okay at first. And maybe I've just gotten soft in my older age. I don't know, but it's just not as fun, right? Like going to an indoor stadium, it's just like, being or watching the Syracuse Orange play in November, right, is more enjoyable than sitting out in the frigid Bills weather. So I don't know. And this is, man, all of this sort of annoys me because part of the reason why they didn't go with a dome was money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so how in the world were you off by 800 million? Like I'm firing a lot of people and I'm keying their cars too, because how are you going to be off by almost $1 billion? Like, oh man,
Yeah.
rounding is a real son of a gun and I just messed it up. Like,
I moved that one decimal too far.
yeah, right. It's insane to me and how much you could be like, you didn't calculate or figure something out because this ain't, tariffs. This ain't that. This is nonsense. And for the Browns, cool stadium. Sucks that your team sucks. So I don't know. Like I'm a little salty because like I would love the Bills to have an indoor stadium, but frankly, at the end of the day, it is going to be better than what we currently have, right? There is going to be some coverage. They do have it designed to negate a lot of the wind. It is supposed to be a better fan experience. The field will be heated and it'll melt the snow, and so it shouldn't impede that. So overall, I'm not like super mad, but it's still I wish we had a dome.
Yeah, and like you said, we have Josh Allen now, but there's even some weather that like truly affects him. I think to that kind of windstorm game a few years ago where we lost to the Patriots because
Diggs can't catch a football.
Diggs can't catch, and we couldn't stop the run, knowing exactly what they were going to do.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because Mac Jones had like three.
Yeah, he had 3 passes.
Yeah.
And we lost. So, and to me, that's what I don't want ever. I don't want weather to determine a game.
So,
Like the kickers, it's not easy to kick or punt in Bill Stadium. And so, like you said, tradition. Oh, like weather, it's football. Like no, this is 2025. I want to see the best athletes on our team doing what they do best, not having to account for snow or everything. Like if Josh is good in it, is everyone else? Are our linemen able to get off and our receivers cutting well? Like James Cook was able to do well in this year.
well, I don't think because of the snow melting system and the drainage system that they have, I don't think it'll be as much of like a footing kind of a thing. I think it's just going to be more just the frigid cold, and that's where Josh could put the ball right in the money, but if the receivers rock hard hands can't catch it, well, yeah.
And you and I don't live there anymore, but if I lived in New York, I'd want to have a stadium that can host things throughout the year as well. I'd want them to host NCAA tournament games in there. Get like
a Super Bowl.
Yeah, like every team that's built a new stadium's gotten a Super Bowl. We're not going to get it.
No.
Like the Bills could get
Although,
like WrestleMania and stuff.
yeah,
Like, huge events could go there, but why would they now?
right. But that being said, if you're the NFL, when's the last time they had like a cold Super Bowl?
The Giants and not the new Giants Stadium in MetLife Open would be my guess.
Yeah.
And that was just rainy and cold. It didn't have snow or anything.
But right, I mean, so I don't think
Yeah,
it necessarily guarantees that we won't get a Super Bowl, but it makes it highly unlikely.
yeah. But anyway, that's our thoughts on that. Bills Stadium is a big topic among Bills fans, and they did say at the owners' meeting this week that they're going to be working on some stuff to honor the last season at the current stadium. So I'm really hoping we bring back like the '90s red
Oh, that would be
helmet
sick.
throwbacks. That would be amazing to see them this year as kind of like a farewell and nod to everyone who came before them.
Yep.
So that's what I'm hoping for. And we said we talk about this later. We have our draft needs. So the Bills have many needs you and I've talked about already, like linebacker being a sneaky one, cornerback at some point needs to be taken, but a couple other positions we haven't discussed. You mentioned how the Bills have suspensions among two of their defensive line free agents. So what are your thoughts and maybe some people you see the Bills targeting in that first round?
So the Madden fanboy in me really wants Matthew Golden. I don't think Josh has ever had a like tier one like burner of a receiver. I mean, John Brown, he was good, right? But like Matthew Golden was the fastest receiver in the draft. And he's really good at Texas, and I would just love to see him. You have Shakir underneath, Keon for the jump ball, and then Golden to just take the top off the defense. Now, realistically, unless we somehow move up, I don't think we're going to be able to get him. And so I would be fine with taking Maxwell Hairston. I think, for the value, I still think we might need to move up a little bit, maybe 24, 25 to get him. But he's got a lot of speed. Everything I read is, he's not afraid to tackle and help and run support. So I wouldn't mind taking someone like him because, because honestly, I don't really want to take a defensive lineman in the first round. I think there's some value in the later rounds, more so my guy, Desmond Watson. If we needed someone to go and clog up the middle, I mean, 6'6", 464 pounds, I think he is.
Yeah.
I think he could lose 60 pounds pretty easily, but he's super strong. He's obviously just a massive human being. And so I think if he could lose a few pounds to become a little bit more mobile while still maintaining that strength, he could really be a dude that is going to be, because honestly, we kept getting gashed in the A and B gaps. Yep. So you have somebody like that right there for just like you physically need two offensive linemen to move. Like he has to be double teamed.
Yeah.
And so I think he might be value in the later third, fourth round. But yeah, I really like Maxwell, and if we could get Golden, that would be super.
Like you mentioned his size, that would be something really under this regime the Bills haven't done at the defensive tackle spot.
No.
Like they brought in Star Latulele, he's an undersized D tackle. Daquan Jones undersized, Ed Oliver undersized. I'd say Jordan Phillips is probably the biggest D tackle they have, and he's big, but he's more of a penetrating, get pressure guy, not. So if they draft that, I hope that's kind of a shift of like, okay, we've been getting gashed by the run for years, no matter how good our defense is, right? That maybe they're starting to realize, okay, we need to try something a little bit different. So I like your idea of the big body.
Yeah, and honestly, plus like what really stops quarterbacks is if you get a push up the middle. Now, I don't think Desmond is going to be a pass rusher by any means, but if he can shove the center back in your face and you're starting to feel that your center come in you and then you want to peel out and your defensive ends, they just make, they keep contained. I would love that first because you're right. We've never had anybody like that. And so plus if he's getting constant double teams, it frees up the other guys to be single. And so, yeah, do I think he's going to be some all pro? Do I think he's going to be the next Chris Jones? Not at 464 pounds, I don't. But I could definitely see him, being a guy who could, play 30-40% of the snaps. He's in there on first down, second and short, third and short, just to be there. It's like, okay, you know what? You're not going to run up the middle on us.
Yeah.
Okay, you might try to do something around the edge. We'll contain that. But I'm done with people running up the gut. And I think more so just Baltimore. That I'm still annoyed by that first time we played them, that first carry of the game. Henry takes 78 yards for a touchdown. No more.
Yep. And so let's say, because you mentioned these two, the Bills stay at 30. Golden and Hairston are there. Who do you want?
Excuse me. Who do I want?
If that option is there. You don't have to move up. They both go to 30. Which one are you taking?
Yeah. I mean, it's so tough, right? Because I'm taking the corner. It's because as much as I want to, right? You look at the offense, like we don't need another premier receiver. I think it just makes the receiver room a little bit muddy. I'm fine with us taking a receiver, in the second somewhere, but the true need is a corner, especially one who, even though Bean and McDermott don't do this, is somebody who could potentially step in and play for us right away. So yeah, no, I would take the corner.
Same. And wide receivers, especially like as much of a passing as league is like sport as college football is now. I think you've seen like you can find really good wide receivers on day 2 of the draft now. All right, so that's all our topics. Do you have anything you would like to add before we close out episode 3?
Anything that I would like to add? Yeah. It is crazy that the season just ended. It's like 7-ish weeks ago. It feels like it's been 6 months, and we still have 6 months ahead of us, or 5 months ahead of us until the regular season starts. So doing this, talking about football, this definitely scratches an itch that I have on a weekly basis. There's not enough football talk out there, and I can't wait for the draft. Also, this holiday season, Josh Allen, Haley, the Hallmark Christmas special. It's going to be awesome. I mean, between this movie, Haley's new alcoholic beverage or whatever that she released, like Bills fans are going to eat that crap up. So yeah, I'm excited for anything football, even a Josh Allen Hallmark movie.
Yeah, and you're spot on about like it does seem like football's been gone way longer than it actually has been. Yeah. It's not even April yet.
Yeah.
So I mean, the NFL does a good job of spacing things out, right? You got the combine, you got free agency a few weeks ago, the draft coming up. They've smartly moved schedule release till after the draft so they can kind of see where the rookies they want to highlight go.
Mm-hmm.
So you got all that. So yeah, but once the schedule release is done, it's like a really dry spell of like, oh, there's nothing until training camp. So,
actually, sorry, I just want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about this, but what are your thoughts on Diggs going to New England?
Diggs going to New England. I think it goes against, like he said, he wants to win. And it I think that shows like he doesn't. He forced his way out of the best team he had, went to Houston, didn't work out like he wanted there with the injury and everything. And now he's going to a team that has, quite frankly, been a bottom feeder the last 3-4 years. Right? And is like the Patriots signed him. The deal wasn't as big as you thought it was once the details came out, essentially being a 1-year deal with 2 option years at the end. But I honestly didn't think Diggs was going to get that type of money, especially this late in the free agency period.
Not me either.
I am not worried about us playing Diggs.
Yeah. No, same.
Are
I
you?
just wonder. No, not at all. I mean, not at all. I mean, it's like, sure, Drake May, he finished it the year strong, but CJ Stroud had a great rookie year, and then year two. So I mean, so we'll see. I do think he will be better this year. I think the Patriots in general, just because of Mike
Mhm.
Vrabel, will be better next year. Um, but yeah, I mean, Diggs himself, I'm not worried about it at all. If anything, I think it's going to be great because they're going to start losing, and then he's going to just be himself, and yeah, it'll be awesome. I just do not want him to score a touchdown in our stadium.
No, I don't think anybody does. And I think the Patriots are the second best team in the division, to be honest with you. They
Yeah,
got some under the radar play, like they got Spillane. I really liked him as a free agent signing. Carlton Davis was they paid a decent amount for him, but he's a pretty good corner. He's not
mhm.
going to be their corner one, right? They got Christian Gonzalez. They got a big weapon for Drake May. Well, like with Diggs, they signed Mac Hollins, right? And they have
Oh yeah,
premium draft capital.
yeah,
So I think they're a sneak because they're going to have a last place schedule. They're going to be, and Vrabel is a good coach.
a good coach.
I think they could be a sneaky in at the last week of the season to make a wild card spot type team.
Yep. No, I'm with you. Frankly, I think they should probably trade back in the draft. I don't think Travis Hunter is worth
Mm-hmm.
a top five pick. I would trade back and stack people on offense. Get a Matthew Golden, get a top tier tight end or offensive lineman.
Yeah,
Um, anyways, screw the Patriots though.
yeah, but so that's interesting. You brought up Hunter. Like everyone essentially has him top three pick no matter what. So you're saying no, not that.
It's part of it, and I am my opinion is tainted because I just don't like him. Not as a I don't like his mindset. His like it just seems very me focused.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Sanders is very me focused. And for two guys that are projected to go in the top five, top 10, and for how crappy Colorado was, it doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, part of it was their offensive line, sure. But I just, you have a guy for which one, I think he's better receiver and he is corner. He made some phenomenal catches last year. But again, he's not playing with a dude he's played with his whole life. It's I don't know. It's
Yeah.
just going to be different, right? He played in the Big 12, okay,
Mm-hmm.
where there's not very many good corners in the Big 12 to actually guard him. And so now you're going to go to the NFL, and all of a sudden you're going to get locked down like you lock down dudes. And so I don't know. For the Patriots, it's like, what are you going to do with him, right? You don't really need him at corner, so you're
Not
going to
yet.
play
And
him at receiver. But then he says he wants to play both ways. So are you going to deal with that personality of, are you going to put him out there at nickel? Are you going to risk him getting hurt? Like
yeah.
that's ultimately why guys don't play both ways. Is part of it is talent, but two, like it's so hard to play one way. And you every time you step in the field, you risk getting injured. So it's like, what is the? I don't know. I just am not a huge. And even for that, like I had Sanders as my third quarterback. It's Ward, Dart, and then Sanders.
Somebody has said a radio broadcast on Moving the Chains. They compared this to Aaron Rodgers of how everyone was, all right, it's going to be Alex Smith, is going to be Aaron Rodgers. Smith went, and then Rodgers fell, right? He fell. So there's a lot of people lately who are saying they could see that for Sanders of like, if he gets past the first few picks, who's going to take him? And that might be end up being just like it was best for Rodgers. It might be the best thing for Sanders. Like if he fell to like a Pittsburgh, if he falls to Pittsburgh,
Oh,
he
that'd
can
be
go
great
to
for
it.
him.
Yeah. So it might be one of those. He'll be pissed obviously if he's not a top five pick. But overall, like imagine if he has an Aaron Rodgers type fall, goes to one of these historic franchises, and then the Steelers, who are still waiting on Aaron Rodgers, if they end up with Shedeur Sanders staying at 21.
Well, that's what he needs. He needs a
Mm-hmm.
coach like Mike Tomlin who takes no crap. Like
Yeah.
he's a man. He will coach you like a man, and you will show up and be a professional. And he doesn't care who your daddy is. That's what he needs. He does not need to go to one of these teams with a first, second, third year head coach. The Giants, I think it's a mistake if the Giants were to draft him, largely because if the Giants play poorly, well then Daboll's going to be out anyways, right? And so I think the Giants, if I'm the Giants, I would move back at in 10, 11, 12, and you could
Yeah.
get or Sanders then. But I'm with you. I just don't see him as a top three. I mean, talk about a weak quarterback
Yeah.
draft. Because even Ward, I don't. I mean, he doesn't excite me all that much either. This reminds me of the draft with like Christian Ponder,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
Blake
that guy.
Bortles.
Yeah. And you're
Uh,
right. Like that quarterbacks just get pushed up because it's like teams got to have them. Right. And we look back at that draft like, man, those quarterbacks, or the year EJ Manuel was like the only
oh
first
my
round
gosh,
quarterback, right?
yeah,
Like,
and he shouldn't have been.
no. But the Bills needed it. They forced it and it didn't work out.
Yeah.
So if the teams are smart, like you said, either move back and then take them or just let someone else make the mistake and you pick somebody else.
Yep.
The best value at quarterback is probably day 2 and 3, where you can get players with lots of experience who might build themselves into a solid backup or a spot starter.
Yeah. Like yours.
Yeah, that's kind of who I was thinking about. Yeah, I think yours exactly. All right, everyone. Well, that is episode 3 of SNS Bills Talk. Thank you for joining us, however you are, either on YouTube, Spotify, or any other platform. We appreciate it. For Dr. Dungan, I am Lawrence Foster. We say, go Bills.
Bills.